What's a lie too many people believe? I can stop anytime I want. Sometimes it's true. I gave up Monster for a couple of years. I'm what some people consider addicted, 1 or 2 a day. A friend said I should give it up, so said sure, why not? Gave it up cold turkey. A couple of heads later had a falling out with a friend and decided, out with you, I'm taking up Monster again. A couple of years after that, I gave it up for a few years on my own except for 1 or 2 a year. Then a couple of weeks ago, I drank one a day for the last 3 days. Ooh, I think I have one left in my car now that I think about it. The point is, I can give up my Monster craving at any time. Facebook used to be on it nonstop. Like 10, 18 hours a day if I was not working. My cousin told me to delete Facebook to improve job hunting. Quit cold turkey and deactivated for like 3 years. Reactivated recently and never posted. I used to get dopamine from complaining about dumb people trolling people, writing funny statuses. I can quit completely again if I choose. Some addictions are too strong. I doubt I'd be good at giving up electronics. So I will not claim I can quit anytime. I can reduce it anytime, but not quit entirely cold turkey. Early teens, LOL, I might be an alcoholic, so cool. 20s, I could very well be an alcoholic maybe? 30s, yeah, I'm an alcoholic, but still I have friends who drink with me. 37, I'm a full-blown alcoholic with liver failure happening. I didn't drink at parties or clubs anymore, it was inside my room pounding handles. 750 milliliters per day every day of whiskey or vodka. I was dying. Now, this new year marks my 3 year of sobriety. It's the hardest drug ever to quit, and I've done some harder stuff. Look after yourselves, we don't live forever. I'm 28, and about 10 months ago I was doing the same thing. 750 milliliters of cheap vodka every day for a few years, sometimes more if there was some left in other bottles. It took having withdrawal seizures in front of my grandma, who I very rarely see, to finally get myself together and quit drinking. If you drink that much taper off, going cold turkey could give you seizures which suck. On a lighter note, I've lost a significant amount of weight since dropping alcohol, and fitting into old clothes is a nice feeling. Yeah, it's not the same thing, but alcohol weight is a real thing. I'm in my 20s, and I think I have a disposition towards drinking issues, but having seen the damage it can do in older adults, I decided to attack the problem early, just cutting my beer intake from 4 a day to 1 every couple of days with dinner, and 3 on occasion when out with friends saw me lose about 20 pounds in only a few months with little to no change in other lifestyle habits. I know people who have lost hundreds from cutting out alcohol. In any case, my anecdotes aside, really good to see everyone being so supportive and making lifestyle changes to better themselves. I thought cancer and Alzheimer's ran in my family. Even put it in my medical records. Turns out it was alcoholism. When the liver stops eliminating ammonia, people act a lot like someone with Alzheimer's. Confusion, inability to remember, etc. I'm lucky it skipped me. But my brother is 10 years sober now. It took several DUIs and some jail to wake him up. I honestly feel very lucky not to have a clue how anyone can manage 750 milliliters of whiskey a day. I never realized that alcoholics drank that much. Was it not 24/7 nausea and horribleness? I asked an alcoholic once about that, and he said that alcoholics just don't care how awful it feels. Great question. It's from decades of building tolerance. It's not that you want to get drunk, rather you have to. You get nausea and horribleness if you don't drink, literally the opposite. It's a horrible way to live life. I drank from the minute I woke up until the early morning when I drank myself to sleep once again. Endless cycle for years upon years. My fiancé then pointed out that my eyes were yellow. It's a sign of liver failure. What did I do? Drink even more. I snuck in alcohol wherever and whenever I could or couldn't. I had alcohol on me at all times. Work, family gatherings, every holiday, funerals, church, wedding, you name it. It was not until I saw my fiancé wept the most sorrowful of tears that I said to myself, this ends now. Woke up on New Year and had the most painful withdrawal of the century, and that was 3 years ago. As a bonus, I quit smoking too at the same time. Even harder perhaps since I vape now. So yeah, anyway, that's how you drink 750 milliliters per day every day. Hope that helps you better understand. Best of luck to you, sir. It's difficult for sure. I can't say I've been to that point, but I've had very close people in my life experience similar scenarios, and I've struggled myself with controlling my levels of drinking. Support and accountability help a lot. A family friend of mine recently quit and lost a large amount of weight and has been much better. His liver was actively failing, but he was able to quit completely cold turkey. You can do it! It's easier to just choose to stop when you decide that you deserve the intense pain and misery that choice causes. Thank you very much for posting this. The taste bud map for your tongue lies. I remember debunking this on a personal level when I was a kid and was shown it the first time. It claimed that you could only taste salt with some of the parts right at the back of your tongue, so I did the obvious thing and tried dabbing a few grains of salt right on the tip of my tongue. Tasted it perfectly fine. I have no idea how that was ever allowed to be printed in textbooks and to be taught at school when it's so easily disproven. I remember that from childhood in the 60s and never could make it work for me. I assumed it was me, not that all the sages were quoting old wives' tales. Same, but in the 80s/90s. Except I was a skeptical kid, so instead of assuming it was me, I just figured everyone else was full of things. Same with learning that water is never new. You can't create nor destroy water. Or, Daddy's long legs are the most poisonous spider in the world. Lying bastards. They are pretty venomous, but their mouth is so small they can only bite other bugs. How are you going to read something that has been stated as a commonly believed myth and then immediately comment about how it's true, or some variation of it? Come on, man! First, there are multiple creatures that people call daddy long legs. In the US, that name is often given to harvestmen. Harvestmen aren't spiders and aren't even venomous. Daddy long legs refers to cellar spiders as well. Cellar spiders are spiders, so they are venomous. But their venom isn't that strong. I think Mythbusters compared it to black widow venom and found that the former wasn't as potent as the latter. In reality, cellar spiders can bite people but are harmless. Brown recluses have similar fang structures but can bite and inflict harm. This always seemed immediately wrong to me even as a kid. I was told that there was a delay in whether you could taste things, if they were more sour or whatever the tastes in the middle and back of the tongue were. But I never noticed any delay in the taste of anything, or things seeming tasteless depending on the part of the mouth they were at. They are still teaching this in school this year. I was floored when I heard that. Anyway, thank you for sharing. That if you go above and beyond, do more work, and take on more things, your company will reward you accordingly. But they said we're a family. My boss treats everyone in our office as his kids, but in a good way. It's almost crazy, but it gives you a nice sense of security and comfort at work. He comes in a little late every day, brings you your preferred morning beverage, pats you on the back, and asks how it's going. He'll come over to your house to help you fix plumbing or hang a TV on the wall. He'll see you needing something at work and buy it for you. He knows our spouses and kids and lets you adjust your schedule to accommodate them at will. Wish everyone had a work environment like this. If you go above and beyond, your next company will usually reward you accordingly. If you believe the effort is irrelevant, you are wrong and will be disappointed. But if you believe that effort is the only thing that counts, you are perhaps even more wrong. It takes effort and leverage, and the one time you have leverage is when you change jobs. But you are also learning more stuff when you work more or extra, at least in jobs where new learning is possible. Gaining extra skills helps. The client said out of the blue he wants to burn down charts. I hadn't worked in Agile much. I learned about the process of making reports, extracting data in Excel, cleaning it up, writing formulas to compute different values, and plotting a chart. Plus, I got paid to learn all these things. I sure spent some personal time too figuring it all out, but that was an investment in myself. I could have made excuses or even given valid-sounding reasons why it should not be done. Why would I? I didn't know a few things. I know them now. Pretty much. I busted my back for a year to learn my job. Not because I wanted to impress anyone, but because I had zero clue what I was doing and was the obvious weak link in the group due to lack of experience. All the hours were so I had something to contribute. Long term, I put in those hours so I could basically do nothing for 3/4 of the day and still get my work done and get ahead. I still get maxed out on my bonus by doing 1/3 of the work hours when I started. I also moved up slightly, but nothing substantial. But have had opportunities to move up quite nicely, and people do recognize and come to me when opportunities come around. If you expect to put in hours for a fat bonus, you'll be disappointed. How do you blow off 3/4 of your day sitting in an office? I work from home full-time. But even in the office, my job is about data accuracy. I made it to where I don't have to do much thinking because I set myself up to where moving dates don't match with what I have. But also because I know the concepts and how X affects Y affects Z, I don't need to think about how to fix problems. My biggest thing is which option causes the least pain because there are 50 ways to skin a cat. Admittedly, most of the reasons I learned was because I made so many mistakes and got screwed over so many times from not accounting for other people's screw-ups. I spend my day managing other people's problems. I spend about 3 hours a week on my actual job. The more I can plan around fixing other people's problems with the same efficiency as mine, the less work I have to do. My team has 8 people on it, and I and another person are the 2 most senior members of our team by 2 years. We do a ton of extra stuff for our team and company, such as leading several onboarding sessions for new company employees every time they start. Being asked to mentor new team members, stepping in to run meetings when our boss is out, sitting in on interviews, manage our largest accounts. I also volunteer to cover accounts if someone leaves or is going to be out for a while, ask for more responsibility, and generally just be an overall team leader amongst other things. I thought for sure I would get a promotion during my most recent performance review. I did not. A newer guy got a promotion to team lead though because he hit all of his sales goals. I fell short of one of my goals. Even though no one has ever told our team what the criteria are to get a promotion, it became clear that hitting numbers is the only thing that matters, and doing extra stuff doesn't matter one bit. I've since told my boss that if something doesn't help me reach that one goal that I missed, I'm no longer interested in doing it. He said that he understands. The reward might not always be monetary, but also things like being able to select your own work, and when you work, no micromanagement, being included in decisions that touch your work, having the higher-ups know you, etc. It could make your work life a lot more pleasant. But all that depends heavily on the type of job. In my experience, if you are too valuable in your position, especially in high turnover and hard-to-fill roles, you will be passed over for a promotion for a lesser qualified candidate. There was a woman I worked with who objectively was very good at her job. They didn't want to promote her because then there wouldn't be an as good teacher in her classroom. Another guy I knew made it 1000% obvious that he loved the company and would never leave, so they would promote him several times or give him the assignments that no one would take, because they knew he wasn't going anywhere and they could walk all over him. Anyways, thanks for sharing. Politicians' promises. When it comes to presidents, they tend to keep their promises and rarely flip on an issue. But it doesn't feel like that because the president is not a king and he has to compromise with others to get anything done. Like people saying Biden broke his promise with student loans. The Biden administration tried. They fought for it, and they had a very, very good and better IMHO legal argument to do it. But the SCOTUS blocked it. This wasn't Biden breaking his promise. It was SCOTUS blocking his promise. Another way to put it is that a candidate only promising things that are likely to happen is never going to win votes because, particularly when Congress can block any damned thing they want, hardly anything ever gets done. So the honest answer is probably not to promise anything. In other contexts, I try this in work meetings, and it works great when dealing with technical people who care about whether or not something is feasible, and it makes executive types furious because they hate being told no. Real conversation, paraphrased. Me. No, we can't make any predictions for clients for whom we have zero data. Fast track to management guy. What if we make something up? CEO. See, that's the kind of thinking I like to hear. We lost the client 4 months later because, as it turns out, you can't make accurate predictions when you have zero data, and somehow the client also knew this. But a crucial point is not to use that as an excuse not to think. Yes, they are all bad, but they are generally not all as bad as each other, or their badness lies in different places. Your duty as a voter is still to execute due diligence. It might seem hopeless to find a good politician to vote for, but if you hand-wave away your right to democracy, the people who are very motivated in interests detrimental to you will get their way. Something folks would be good to remember this coming year as everyone decides to pick a side, not realizing the only two sides are us, those who aren't billionaires, versus them, billionaires. Money doesn't buy happiness. You can be rich and sad, but you would be sadder if you weren't rich. I mean, the saying, money cannot buy happiness, is probably true. Money gives you the means to pursue happiness, but whether you achieve it or not depends on what you use your money for. A lot of external factors come into play as well. But I feel like a lot of people get its meaning twisted, as in, if you have a lot of money, well, too bad, you will never have happiness, which isn't true in the slightest. With money, you can pay off a home, removing any stress about the mortgage every month. Pay off a car, removing any stress from a car loan. Easily afford the insurance for the above items. Afford not only food, but healthy food for a healthy life. Afford to have an extensive wardrobe of clothes. Afford to put furniture, appliances, decorations, etc. Afford things like beauty products, fragrances, etc. Afford self-care like massages, /acupuncture, /facials, etc. Take vacations and not stress about the cost. Encounter unexpected home auto repairs without stress. Put away $2, 500 mo for retirement. More easily invest in the stock market, real estate. If you've noticed, I said nothing about luxury watches, sports cars, elevators in the home, etc. Just a pretty medium life where you can live and not worry about basic, first world things. Money cannot buy you happiness, but it will bring you so much closer. Money can be isolating. A lot of quite content people win money and become miserable. Wealth brings pressure from family and friends who want some of the action. It can be hard to trust that people are there for you, not your money. Even good friends and family can turn nasty and bitter. Then there is your internal pressure to be responsible with the money or to help charities. But which ones? On top of that, there is a feeling of guilt that you can't complain or have no right to be sad because you're rich. So you don't reach out for help or confide in your normal support group. There was a study on this several years ago. It found that money does buy happiness up to a certain point. $70,000 annually was necessary for peak happiness. Note: I'm not sure how long ago this was, but that number is a bit higher today due to inflation. After that, earning more money didn't make subjects any happier. The reason for the $70,000 figure is that it's enough money to prevent stress from trouble, as not having enough money to pay your bills, etc. Causes, assuming you aren't overspending like crazy, but the extra money does nothing to solve the other things that make you unhappy. I think my happiness would increase dramatically if we had enough money that we could maintain or exceed our current quality of life in the interest of our assets without working. Anything significantly beyond that would have diminishing returns. Even if money was no object, I wouldn't be interested in designer traveling year-round, eating at Michelin-star restaurants every day, or moving into a higher cost of living area. Sure, I might travel more, but that would be more a result of having more time than having more money. And I might want to do something silly luxurious once for the experience, but I can't imagine wanting to rent the penthouse suite every time or anything. You are right. However, money can't buy happiness, but it gives you more bargaining power. Can't remember where I saw this, but stuck with me, and every day it is validated. Don't get me wrong, I love my life, my partner, and everything in my life. But man, it took a lot of work to get here. One common misconception is that we only use 10% of our brains, which is a myth. In reality, we use all parts of our brain, and different areas have specific functions. I think the most accurate version of that statement is that only 10% of the brain is active at any given instant, but those constantly vary over time as neurons fire, then wait for a signal so they can fire again. There are cases where the brain is 100% active, though. I believe that's called a seizure. In my limited knowledge, that's it. Unregulated electrical activity in the brain. As an aside, that's a generalized seizure, aka grand mal seizure. The kind most people think of, where you lose consciousness. Localized seizures also exist, where a similar thing happens, neuron-wise, but localized in only part of your brain. They typically won't cause you to lose consciousness, although they can alter your state of consciousness, and depending on which lobe, they affect, someone right next to you may not even realize you're having one. Sorry for the actually, but as an epileptic of nearly 30 years and only diagnosed for 4 of them, I wish I had heard about localized seizures sooner so that I could have better described my symptoms to various general practitioners. Maybe someone in my former position might see this and be moved to research and act. If you or anyone you know has sudden, weird, transient feelings sometimes, or drifts off mid-conversation without realizing, it's neurologist time. Epilepsy can be quite treatable when it's diagnosed, and most people don't need surgery. I take 2 tablets a day, and my last seizure was pre-COVID. People have been saying this exact statement for like 10 years, seizures and everything. I think the actual premise in the movie that this quote is from is that people can only control 10% of their brain. Like, can only manually recruit 10% of their brain, the rest is automated to some degree. An analogy would be living in a house, but a bunch of doors are locked. The door to the furnace is locked, the door to the water heater is locked, the circuit breaker is locked, etc. People are not talking about existing in every room of the house at the same time. They are talking about having access to every room so that things can be manually controlled. Most of the brain is always active to some degree. The 100% active seizure idea is the same kind of conceit. A seizure is uncontrolled, unregulated signaling, but there is almost always some type of controlled signaling going out throughout the entire brain. This one is more born of the fact that our body limits the capabilities of our muscles, because if it didn't, we'd hurt ourselves a lot more. I saw a comparison of the mistaken 10% brain rule to traffic lights. We could technically claim that traffic lights only use 33.3% of their capacity. But yes, that's exactly how they're designed and supposed to work. Thank you for sharing. Just what they are told in general, without doing their research, to logically believe something outright. Might not be a lie. But it's scary to me how much people believe outright because it was convenient, or they felt like it made sense without exploring. You don't have to research every little thing, but people just aren't curious, and it scares me. I despise the term, do your research. Especially for science, things like vaccinations, or things in my field such as animal care and wildlife management. People have started equating a 5-minute read on a biased web page as adequate research when compared to the actual research that people do in labs or spending months, years in the field for one scientific paper. I understand. I mean, look for more information. If someone spouts a fun fact to me, I'm not going to just believe it without doing some digging to see if it's in any way rooted in reality. I also like to see the complete opposite of something, the most outrageous perspective, just so I know what other people could think. And I also believe in science and the research that scientists do. But it helps me to see just how far people will bend their brains to make something that goes against all evidence and logic true for them. While I agree with you in general, I gotta mention school exams. If anything, they prove it's extremely rare to keep memorizing just so much detail over time. Just because someone sounds 100% sure and confident about a topic doesn't mean they aren't forgetting a possibly key nuance or have updated their info if necessary. That's the problem, unfortunately. They do their research until they find one source that backs up their thought, confirmation bias, while ignoring the thousands of other sources that refute it. So, gotta do that 5-minute research sometimes. Thank you for sharing.